My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of He's Oz That. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't go into this movie with very high expectations, but I was blown away from the very first scene and the amount of depths on display. When Addison Rae, TikTok star, now actress, wakes up and she's filming herself, putting on makeup and all that, and she lives a very extravagant life, and then we see her leave her room, and we get the glimpse of the washing machine and the drying machine, indicating that she's poor. I was just like, wow, there was so much depth on display. And when we find out that her boyfriend cheated on her, I was heartbroken. I immediately knew I was in for an emotional roller coaster, and that was just the start of it. She then vows to turn another guy into her new boyfriend and clean him up. So what better option there was than this guy who was so ugly that he was wearing a beanie and a plaid shirt. Disgusting. But as she starts to spend time with this disgusting beanie wearing horrible, she starts to realize that he's a good person. And she still attempts to make him into this brand new, super good looking model boyfriend of hers. So what does he do? Well, he stops wearing plaid and he stops wearing his beanie. He gets a haircut, and then everyone realizes him for the real hunk that he is. I was completely blown away by this character transformation. I'm just like, wow, this is like an entirely new person. Bravo, TikTok star Addison Rae. I was so on edge just seeing, is she gonna get all of her TikTok followers back? Is she going to still be an influencer? Oh my, I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted her to gain her followers back. The amount of views on her videos was declining for the first act of the movie. And for her to get those views and those followers back after she transforms this ugly beanie wearing horrible into some not beanie wearing hunk, it was some really powerful stuff. Really powerful. From that point on, the directions the story takes, the twists, the tones, the reveals, the heartbreak. So powerful. He's Oz That is a masterpiece. Not since Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather has cinema been this strong. I'm going to go ahead and give this masterpiece a 10 out of 10. As Chet Hanks would say, psych! Okay, wow, this movie was pretty freaking awful, but you know what? I had a great time watching it, not for the purposes that the director clearly intended. The director who made this made Mean Girls and Freaky Friday, two early 2000s classic, and now he makes this shit? What the hell? Honestly, this movie is absolutely dreadful. It is cringy as hell, and I was laughing throughout the entire movie. I was having a great time. Where to begin? Oh my goodness, this movie is just everything wrong with society today. Yeah, I know that seems so cliche to say, but I hate the whole influencers trend. I hate TikTok. I hate all that stuff. And to just see it on full display here, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this stuff is so cringy. And it blows my mind that people actually watch it and enjoy it. Just the whole trend of people being like, just woke up, filming myself, I use this stuff so you can buy it too. And people actually go out and buy that stuff. I just think, I hate that entire trend in today's society. I hate it. I'm not going to go on a whole rant about it, but boy, it's tempting. But this movie seems to want to speak out against it and be like, you don't need to film yourself doing everything. You don't need to be the famous influencer or whatever. But at the same time, they hire TikTok influencer Addison Rae, so it's just like they're completely hypocritical in its messaging, and I just kind of hate that stuff. This movie was just so cringy. All the talk of follows, like, oh my goodness, I'm losing so many follows because my boyfriend cheated on me. This is so heartbreaking. Do you actually expect me to care that you're using follows? Like, oh my goodness, I couldn't care less. Like, you're obviously the most shallow person there is. Every single person in this movie is an absolute atrocious human being. Have you ever seen the movie Something Bored? It's a rom-com from, I think, 2009. Anyways, terrible movie. John Krasinski is the only good part of that movie. And throughout the entire movie, everyone else is just a terrible person and John Krasinski is a good guy. And then at the end of the movie, John Krasinski is the only character that doesn't get what he wants and everyone else does. And I just hated it. I thought that was an absolutely terrible movie, and I think that's the case here. I didn't like any of these characters. I thought they were all terrible human beings. Just the way the characters talked. There's one point where someone goes like, you're no longer popular. You're nothing more than a meme now. And I'm just like, oh. And then there's a point where her ex-boyfriend tries to win her over, and he goes like, could you imagine the number of followers I have and the number of followers you have? If we get back together, the number of followers we both have would be insane. It's like in The Empire Strikes Back, when he goes like, join me and we will rule the galaxy together. And this movie's just like, join me and we will have so many followers. It's just so stupid. All the acting is absolutely atrocious. Addison Rae is awful in the main character. At no point does she actually feel like a real person. At no point did it feel like her TikTok persona and her real life persona was separate at all. It just all felt like this shallow, two-dimensional shell of a human being, and that just took me out of the movie to begin with. The rest of the cast is also really bad. You never buy the romance for a second. Like, the guy's just like, ugh, I don't want to spend time with you. And then, like, they spend one day together, and then he looks at her, and it's just like... Just the way that they eventually start acting towards each other just feels so forced. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like they're actually getting closer. It just feels like the actors are trying the hardest to make it seem that way, but they completely failed in every single possible way. And I know I was making fun of it before, but let's just talk about the fact that the main guy in this movie isn't freaking ugly. It's just like She's All That. Rachel Lee Cook is wearing glasses, and everyone's like, oh, she's a hideous freak. And then Rachel Lee Cook is like, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, you're so stunning. So we get that with this movie, but instead of the glasses getting taken off, it's just he takes off the beanie and he gets a haircut, and everyone's just like, oh my goodness, that's an entirely different person. It's just, oh my goodness, it's cringy. And there's a part where the main girl is singing, and everyone's just like, oh my goodness, she is so talented. And yeah, not to sound too mean, but the singing in this movie is awful. Like, it is so bad. It is so very bad. Yeah, and then he comes in and he starts singing with her too, and they start singing a duet, and it's supposed to be like one of those High School Musical moments where they both sing together and everyone's just like, oh, they're so in love. But the way that they both sounded, you couldn't even hear him. So I get the feeling that he was so bad that like they toned down the volume on him, and it sounded completely awful. It sounded like a mess, and everyone's just like, oh my goodness, these two are so good together. And I'm just like, really? Really? Oh, and to go back to the dialogue, yeah, I know this review's all over the place, but I don't really care because this movie's awful. There's a point where the one girl's trying to act the guy's sister, like, what's he into? And she's like, oh, he's into Kurosawa, Kung Fu, and Kubrick. And then she's like, wow, that's a lot of K's. 3 K's to be exact. The guy's obviously a raging racist. Just saying. Look, I'm not gonna bury the lead. This movie is absolutely awful in every single way. If I was to give it the slightest of positives, it would be, it seems like Matthew Lillard is having fun in the role as the principal. He's not in the movie much, but every time he's on screen, he actually doesn't do a bad job. He's very entertaining to watch. But aside from that, every other element of this movie is awful. The way that it's lit and the way it looks, it's just a hideous movie to look at. Like, it's so overly bright and oh my goodness, it's a really awful movie to look at. The acting is all awful. The writing is complete garbage. It's cringy as can be. The characters and everything that happens in regards to the characters, all the reveals and heartbreaks, is just laughably bad. Like, at no point does anyone in this movie feel like an actual character. But that all said, I still enjoyed watching this movie. Like, it is fun to watch and just laugh at how absurdly bad it is. Invite a few friends over, have a few drinks, laugh at this movie. I think you guys would have a good time with it. See, and that's when movies like this are difficult to rate, because quality-wise, this movie is a 0.5 out of 10. Like, I would give it that low of a rating. It is that bad. But entertainment-wise, I was highly entertained the entire time. And I feel like if I give this movie a 6 out of 10 because I was so entertained, then I'm saying the movie was good, which it's certainly not. But if I just give this movie a 0.5, but I was entertained, so I feel like 0.5 is a bit too harsh for it. So do I go 5 out of 10? Do I go 4 out of 10? Like, it's bad, but it's still highly recommended. So I'm not even going to give this movie a number rating. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a stamp of so bad that it's good. Okay, did you watch He's All That? Did you find this movie to be all that? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.